Hi, Kristen. Hi, Melody. I don't know if you're really here, but if you are, hello. I'm lighting my candles. How was your day? How was everybody's day? Hi, Tim. I like to say hi to all the people who I can see on the screen, but I'm not always sure if they're actually watching. All right, getting these candles lit. Hi, Misan. I know you're really there. All right, there's our candles, our candlelight. Maybe you're lighting candles in your house too. Rough, but getting better. Yeah. My day, how was my day? It was kind of quiet. I woke up really early and I didn't feel right, so I went back to sleep a little later. I don't know if you guys ever do that, but so I slept from like 8:30 to 10 or something like that, and I had some wild dreams. And they've stuck with me all day. Oh, sound's not working. You could go to my feed and see if it works there. You're on the Hatha Yoga Center feed right now. Anyway, am I going to do one outside? Yeah, I could do one outside. It's supposed to get nice as the week goes on, and like next weekend it's supposed to be in the 80s again, I think. So since I'm planning on bringing this to a conclusion, the nightly meditations to a conclusion on May 31st, maybe I'll do some of the last ones outside. That's a great idea, Tim. Can you hear me here, Lori? Yeah, we have a pretty nice backyard, but it's trampled by our dog, so the grass is completely destroyed, but that's okay. Grass is totally overrated. If it weren't for the mud, I wouldn't care. Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad you're getting sound, because otherwise you're just going to see my face, and that's kind of not so helpful, maybe. Or maybe it is. I don't know. Sometimes it's nice to see people we like and their faces, and I can't see your faces. You had a nap today too, Misan? I hope it was a good one. Hi, Jade. So, so I went back to sleep. I had a bunch of wild dreams. Then I got up again, which I don't really like doing that, but I knew that if I didn't do that, I probably would be, I would probably be pretty miserable. So I got back up, and then I have been fortunate enough, I mentioned this before, to have the opportunity to do some remote teaching for Yoga Behind Bars to a young student in the women's prison. And this was my third session with her. So we're doing it every week. And she really likes yoga and was getting into yoga, but had never had a teacher before. So she's really quite delighted about it, I think. And it's really my pleasure and my honor to be able to do that. So anyway, she is really like making progress in just 3 weeks of being able to just really feel her body in space and have awareness of where she is. And it's pretty much an honor to witness. So it's not TMI. Going to the bathroom is part of life, and we all do it. Or going potty, as you said. So, anyway, so today is May 21st in the year 2020. And in 4 days, it will be 2 months that I've been doing these nightly meditations. And I'm thinking 10 more days of this and then switching to weekly meditations. When we started in March, we had just started live streaming yoga classes on the Hatha Yoga Center website. And I just kind of knew, glad you're back, Jade, that I needed to do something, because all of the things that I normally do with my life, like teaching yoga and volunteering for Yoga Behind Bars, and I've been doing some other stuff. All of that pretty much came to an end in March. And my husband would be working from home. He has been. He's going to be for months. He's already been told to work from home until October, which is fine. But I knew that I needed to have more structure and I needed to offer something. And so that's why I started doing this. But I did not know that it would be 2 months of doing this, which for me is kind of like, it's kind of crazy how fast the time has gone. And I don't know. It's been an interesting time, and it's really, I said last night, it's really meant a lot to me to, Jade, you're switching over to my feed. I'm looking at that camera, so it's really meant a lot to me to see all of you every night and to be with you during this time, this interesting time. So I'm sure by now you have a routine around it. My routine is tonight, interestingly, my dog, she knows now when I get my little tripod out and my cushion that I'm probably going to kick her out of the room. I wish she could stay in here, but she gets restless and starts, coming and trying to distract me and stuff, which is fine, but I usually take her downstairs. And so tonight she just took herself down there and took herself and put herself right in her kennel, which I thought was kind of cute, like acknowledging that I was about to do this and that she wasn't going to be in the room. So there's a whole thing that's happened in my house because of this. Nikki's not living here anymore, so he's not part of it, but everybody's trained now that there's a 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock meditation. So it takes a while, but now I'm going to have to untrain them. So you're probably trained. You probably have a few things you do. Maybe you could do those things now, like coming onto your back or finding your seat. Oh no, Lori. Lori lost a family member, a cousin today. I'm so sorry, Lori. Sounds like a really wonderful person. Lori said that her cousin died today, and her cousin was very important to her as a kid and as a teenager. She stayed with Lori's family when Lori's mom was depressed and psychotic, and took care of us kids for several years when her mom couldn't do much for us. Yeah, that's a hard loss, I'm sure. And thank the gods and goddesses for people like your cousin. So coming onto your back, if that's how you're going to experience this time, this meditation, coming onto your back or finding your seat. And perhaps you have a place that you have set up for this purpose. So you might have, it's kind of chilly in Seattle tonight, so you might have a blanket to put over you or a pillow to put under your head. Maybe you have something to cover your eyes with. So bringing yourself into that place, and I'm going to just stand up for a moment while you get into your position. Just needed to turn the heat up. It's chilly in my house. So finding your way there and allowing yourself to come into that place and to really surrender your body, the weight of your body. So once again, I'm going to speak to you as if you're laying on your back. And you can translate that if you're sitting up. It'll be a different experience if you're sitting in meditation. But if you're on your back, just allowing your body to find this new relationship with gravity. You may have been more upright for most of the day. Sometimes I think about how we do these one-legged balances in yoga. We work on balancing on one foot, which is really important, especially as we get older, to be able to balance. But then I just think like how much standing on 2 feet, your own 2 feet, is a balancing act. We don't think of it that way because we're so used to it, but perhaps we do, like if we have balance issues, we think of it more. But so now you've gone from having all of the weight of your body distributed over the soles of your feet to being on your back. And so now the weight of your body is completely in a different organization and relationship with gravity. And, you know, it's possible to fall asleep standing up or sitting, but in this position that you're in, you can really let your body relax, and you could probably easily fall asleep on your back. It is the sleeping position of choice for many of us. So allowing yourself to be there and to really feel the places where your body is making contact with the floor. So, you know, you'll feel the back of your skull, your hair. You probably feel how your neck lifts away from the floor, and you might want to tuck a pillow under there or something to give that some support, that curvature of your spine and your neck. And you'll probably feel your scapula, those flat bones of your shoulder blades on the floor. Might be able to feel the places where your spine is touching the floor. And the back of your rib cage. And there's probably some places where, you know, on the back of your torso where your body doesn't feel like it's touching the floor as heavily, or maybe isn't touching the floor at all. And that might be in your lower back. There might be that curvature that lifts away from the floor. And then moving further down, you know, there's the back of your buttocks and your legs, and you might feel some spots there, like maybe the back of your knees pull away from the floor. And so it's always nice to be supported. So taking any time you need to, always to support your body in this position. And some of those places you might be able to just, now that you're here on your back and you're breathing and starting to allow the body to soften, you might be able to feel this more subtle settling of your body. So one place I've talked about in the past is the back of your rib cage, the lower part of your rib cage. Sometimes we jut our lower ribs forward, and so to breathe heaviness into those places that are gently kind of pulled away from the floor. And some of those places won't come to the floor. You want to keep some curvature in your spine, and that's why you support it. But maybe you can breathe some heaviness and softness into the back of the rib cage, maybe into your sacrum, and feeling heavier. And feeling the breath. What is the quality of your breath right now as you're coming into this time? Just observing the breath. You might notice whether it's your breath that you feel first or the thought of your breath. Like, is your mind leading the breath, or is your breath leading your mind? And we have words to describe our breath. And I've been using a lot of those words over the course of the last 2 months. Basic words like inhale and exhale. And so we think of that as one thing. Our inhale is one thing, and our exhale is one thing, and those two things make up a breath. But there's really a lot of different things that go into making an inhale and an exhale. It's a collection of sensations and perceptions and feelings and actions. So see if you can break it down a little bit in your own mind, in your own body, so that you're feeling the breath in a more subtle and possibly complete way. So that it's just not one inhale and one exhale, but it's a whole like pastiche. Is that the word? Pastiche? It's a whole like collage of sensations and feelings, some which you may have words for, and some are just sensations that don't really have words readily available. And so you could start as the air comes into your nostrils for the inhale. And you might even be able to feel like how the temperature of the air as it comes in. You might be able to feel it brush up against the inside of your nostrils and come back down into the throat and through the glottis, into your windpipe, into all of these bronchial tubes coming into your lungs. You can kind of imagine your lungs are like upside down trees. They have bigger branches, or what's that called? I want to say stalks. Oh my. The trunk, that's the word I'm looking for. They have like trunks, and then off of those trunks come all these smaller passageways, smaller branches, airways. So you might not be able to feel that, the subtlety of that, but you might be able to feel the air coming in down your throat, and you might be able to feel a more completeness as the breath comes possibly deeper into your lungs, or higher into the lungs, or around the sides and the backs of your lungs. So being very quietly observant of the breath in this way. And of course, of the feeling of the inhale as the breath enters the body and fills the body, and then the exhale as the breath leaves your body. And then what else might you notice about your breath? You might notice there's a pause before you take your next inhale. There's a very subtle pause. This is natural breathing, so your breath isn't really altered. We're not doing any particular type of breathing exercise. We're just observing our natural breath. Trachea, yes, alveoli. And so there's a certain rhythmic quality to the breath. So noticing that can be described in many different ways. I like thinking of it as a wave-like kind of thing. And notice where else in your body you can feel your breath besides in the respiratory system itself. So yes, you feel it coming in through your nose and into the trachea and the alveoli. Yes, you feel it in your lungs, and you might feel your rib cage moving. Where else do you feel the breath? Where else could you feel the breath? You might be able to feel it coming deeper. This is something we've played around with, coming deeper into your belly, even deeper into your pelvis. I've heard some physical therapists who work with breath and talk about the 3 diaphragms. So this diaphragm in your throat, the glottis, and the diaphragm, the respiratory diaphragm that connects into the bottom of the rib cage and the back of the spine and some of your organs. So that big sheet of tissue, the respiratory diaphragm, and then your pelvic floor, which forms a diaphragm, those muscles of your pelvic floor. And so that those 3 diaphragms move in kind of a symphony as you breathe. So that's a subtle thing to feel. You might feel it in your throat a bit. You might be able to feel the movement of the diaphragm mostly by the volume of air coming in and bringing pressure deeper into your belly. It's hard to feel. There's not the nerves in our diaphragm don't necessarily allow us to really feel that like you might feel your skin or another part of your body. It's a different type of experience maybe. And then the pelvic floor, that's also rather subtle. I mean, you can lift, you can contract your pelvic floor muscles, you can lift them. If you've ever done Kegel muscles, you might know about that. But we're not looking for any kind of really powerful movement of the pelvic floor muscles. We're just looking for this kind of gentle movement that goes along with the other movements of the breath, the other diaphragm movements. So it might be more of an image that you create in your own mind of these diaphragms, these 3 diaphragms moving together. And there might be a certain type of movement that you associate with that. And you might allow your belly to be relaxed and to move with the breath also. So that's the diaphragm, that's the movement of the diaphragm. And then you might imagine now here on your back, you can hear a lot of noises in your environment, most likely. Even if you're I'm in a pretty quiet place right now, but I can still hear bird noises outside. I can hear my heating system because I turned my heat on. Occasionally I can hear noises that Werner is making. He's below me downstairs. Possibly the sounds of cars or trucks outside, traffic noises. And so there's this whole world going on around you. And it's kind of tempting to feel withdrawn from that and to be cocooning, especially when you're in a meditative state. But you might also kind of invite that experience in, recognizing that the cars and the streets, the sounds of your neighbors, their yards, the birds, the rabbits, their pets, all of these things that are existing around you are also part of your experience and are really interconnected with your experience, even now, even in this state where you've created this kind of safety bubble around you in your meditative state. So you might almost imagine that when you inhale, you're taking in this entire community that surrounds you, not just the good parts that are easy to take in, like the soft bunny rabbits that are hopping in your yard, or your beloved pets and your spouse, or whatever. But maybe you're taking in the parts of it that are less like things you'd want to bring in. Like maybe, as Lori brought up at the beginning of this, she's actually one of my neighbors, and she experienced a death in her family today of a person who was really important to her. So maybe you're knowing of things that have happened in your own community that you're breathing that in, you're taking that in with your breath, and then you're sending. What are you sending? So in my case, I'm going to come back to the Tonglen style of meditation that we've done a few times, sending and receiving breath. So sending out love. Sending out love to the people I know who are struggling in my community. Taking in some of their suffering, and also taking in all of the beautiful things, like in the case of Lori's cousin, that was a person who cared for her very much and who she loved based on what she told us. So you're taking in both her joy and her, or I am taking in both her joy and her sadness as I breathe out love, and also my recognition of the struggle of the world and the struggle of grief. So in every part of your community, there is such a complex and rich what's the word I want to say? There's like a whole richness to the experience of your community, both in your neighborhood, in your home, in your neighborhood, also in your city, in your county, your state, in our country. We're really interwoven together. Recently, I've been having these experiences where I hear a word or a phrase, or I see something, and then really shortly after that, like maybe 2 hours later or 5 minutes later or the next day, I hear that again, whatever it is. And it's tempting to think that there's some kind of like magical thing happening when you have those kinds of coincidences. But really what it is, and when it happens, is when I'm paying attention. When I'm really paying attention, I can really experience how much, I don't want to say coincidence, but just how connected everything is, and how, in a lot of ways, how, despite our differences, how similar we are to the other people in our communities, and how we're sharing so many things. We tend to often identify with the separation that we have from others, but just the fact that we're human beings means that we're having so many similar experiences, and we share so much. We're so interconnected. So, how does that feel in your body? How does it feel? Just how are you experiencing the feeling of interconnectedness? Sometimes we're interconnected with things we don't want to be interconnected with. And sometimes it's because we're trying to get away from those things in ourself, or so I'm just noticing. I heard somebody say, Laura said we're a quilt. I heard somebody say once that it's kind of, it sounds a little cheesy, but like that it's like we are like a tapestry, and we're really close up to it. Like all the threads of our lives are really interconnected with our communities and with all of the other beings on the planet, but we cannot really get back far enough away from it to see like the actual quilt, like Laura said. But when we do, we just can see like how completely interwoven our lives are with one another. So you might just take another couple moments to reflect on that and notice how that feels to you. And it's just like your own body. Your own body is so completely interwoven and interconnected. So when one part of our body is experiencing pain or an injury, it has an effect on the whole body. And, we have all of the systems of our body are intimately interconnected and interwoven, so that we pick them apart and we say, we put labels on things. I heard an anatomist talking about how he had gone to his first dissection, and he was trying to, I can't remember which part it was like a ligament that he was looking for, that he was trying to dissect in a cadaver. And he said to the person who was leading this dissection, he said he couldn't find this particular, it was like in the hips, he couldn't find this particular ligament. And the person who was leading this dissection, the teacher said, you're looking at it. It's just, it was so completely enmeshed with the other tissues that, in our mind, we see our body as all of these separated parts, but in reality, it's completely interwoven. So, just taking a couple more breaths here. Coming back to the experience of these diaphragms working together with the breath. Once again, the diaphragm in your throat, glottis, your respiratory diaphragm, and your pelvic floor. Just imagining this symphony that occurs when you're breathing with your cardiovascular system, with the musculoskeletal system, and it's so miraculous. We're always looking for miracles. Well, they're just right there in front of us. And so just deciding if you're going to stay on your back or if you're going to come back to your seat. And if you're going to stay, then just stay right there. If you're going to come up to your seat to close, you might just roll onto your side and coming back up with this soft, comfortable breathing and this relaxed body. Coming back to your seat and finding your spine, finding your upright spine. Feeling your sit bones heavy. Maybe you're sitting on a cushion or something. And then you might just bring your hands so the palms are down on your thighs if you're sitting, just grounding yourself again. Feeling the structure of your body, your head balanced on top of your shoulders, which are balanced over the rib cage and the pelvis. So there's some movement, but it's very comfortable and balanced. There's no strain in your neck. And again, feeling the breath coming in and out through the nose. And then you might bring your hands together at your heart and bow to your own practice. And I bow to you and to my own practice, to my own inner teacher, to my higher power, my higher self. Namaste. And I will see you tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. Have a great and relaxing evening.